Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time. This time on the Kindness Project, touching footage, debating diversity, and we have part 3 of our interview with Ruth Hughes. Hello listeners and welcome to another episode of the Kindness Project. I'm joined by a girl who has just shown me a video that is making me almost cry. It's Charlotte Dames.
And I'm joined by a man with a soft heart. It's Chris Dames.
So, let me talk about this video. It's a video of a baby, and they've literally just provided this baby with a gift of hearing. And the reaction of that baby made the room quite dusty because I'm feeling quite. There's a tear in my eye right now. It is absolutely
you just
lovely.
kept giggling.
Yeah. Just imagine losing a sense and then suddenly getting it back.
They just turned on those hearing aids and they're just saying hi.
Yeah. Thing is, I suppose the other thing is, as you know, I've got glasses this week, and I don't know whether when you're without a sense, whether you actually miss it, because you're like sort of like, and it's a massively minor example, but I was living without having glasses, and suddenly I've got glasses, and it's the world is clearer once more. Now, if it's a major disability, like not being able to hear at all or not being able to see at all, then that's entirely different. But when you're a baby and you don't know that
things make sounds.
Yeah, well, exactly. You just don't know because you've never been able to hear.
People are just moving their lips at you.
Yeah, exactly. How do you contextualise the world based on that? I don't know.
They gave the little baby hearing.
Yeah, should we just go back to the video? I'm trying to explore the world using deep intellectual questions, and Charlotte's just like, oh, there's a baby. And he's smiling and laughing because he can hear its mum, which is joyful. I absolutely love it. So last week at the end of the podcast, you were telling us about your gym session. How are you finding it? I know there's an old man in yoga who keeps on moving quite flexibly.
What the hell is this man?
What do you mean, what the hell is this man?
Like, he can bend all the way. He's like tripled my age.
Yeah.
And he can balance his leg.
Is that Joe?
Huh?
Cotton Eye Joe. Where did he come from? Where did he go? He's in your yoga class, Cotton Eye Joe. That's where he is.
At least he's not in my Zumba class, is it?
But just imagine if they played Cotton Eye Joe in your Zumba class and Cotton Eye Joe was dancing in that class. That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. Just, is there any men in your Zumba class?
No, there's not many people in the Zumba class, full stop.
You're joking. I'd assume that Zumba would be one of the more popular
there's like
classes.
6 people.
6?
And then you go to the tone and there's like 20. Is it 20 or 15? I don't know.
Weirdly, I assumed that Zumba was going to be the popular one.
Tone's really popular.
Tone, how about yoga?
I really don't like tone. But yeah, yoga's pretty popular.
Yeah.
Tone's pretty popular. Zumba, not so much. Gets about a third.
Any men?
No.
So Cotton Eye Joe doesn't go. Cotton Eye Joe just goes to yoga then, yeah?
Probably.
Okay, fair enough. So what else has been happening in your life?
I'm doing mocks. GCSEs are right round the corner in less than 100 days.
Is that how you count down stuff? In days now?
Yeah. Well, with the GCSEs, every 20 days or so, we get a reminder, 100 days away. You know, you've only got 55 school days left.
At what point do you go, I know when my exams are, leave me alone?
After the second time.
Right, okay.
I was like, bloody heck, man, I know when my exams are.
Yeah.
It's like, stop giving me this added stress.
Just relax. Enjoy it. Enjoy exams. I've just said it and realised how ridiculous it sounds.
I'll go and I'll maybe enjoy the maths and the English and the media.
Yeah.
But everything else is going to be a hellhole.
It's alright, you'll get through it, and you'll do. And I'm 1,000,000% sure you're going to do well. If I'm just hoping in your media exam, one of the questions is, explain where do you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Well, the questions are more likely to be like, how does the IT crowd use... how does the IT crowd create meaning? And the whole point of it is to talk about selection, combination, and exclusion.
All right, this isn't a revision podcast. This is a
totally
podcast where we share stories of kindness.
I could totally do a revision podcast.
So, let's talk about last week's question of the podcast, which was... No, we're not. That's the end of the podcast.
But you've got a bit with me today.
I have a bit today. So, let's talk about this week's question of the podcast, which is, what's your favourite or the world's greatest card or board game?
Oh, this is the conversation we had to put off, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think I know yours.
Yeah, you know.
Do you know mine?
No. Cluedo, maybe. I don't know.
Chess. World's greatest board game. Oldest board game. Chess is the answer. What's yours?
Game of Life.
But we had this conversation about Game of Life, and you wanted to know why you can have gay couples in the Game of Life. They should release a new Game of Life where you can just, partner up with anybody.
See, in the board game version, you can do what you want. There was no one standing there going, no, sorry, mate, you have to have a husband. But, see, you had the app on your iPad, and I used to sit and play.
Hold on. If you were a man... Did it used to say you get married? I don't think in the card game it specified whether the little person you put in needed to be a different colour or not.
No, it didn't. But in the app version,
it assumed
as soon as you went through that you wanted someone of the opposite gender.
Yeah.
Which is very not true.
Old school. Old school.
Clearly doesn't know me very well.
Yeah. But in chess, the fact that the queen is the most powerful piece on the board and the king needs defending is quite a feminist principle, isn't it? Don't you reckon?
Yeah, but that's just history.
Yeah. How about card games? What's your favourite card game?
Oh, my favourite card game.
We had a game of Uno yesterday.
We had a game of Uno and I taught you guys how to play sevens. And you got real competitive.
Yeah, this
which
is the thing.
Why I like Game of Life.
Talk to me about how you get good at Uno. Because at the minute, I think it's random. But what tactics and strategy you use to get good at Uno?
Oh, I have no idea. I kept playing it and kept playing it and kept playing
right.
it. Right.
Are you saying you've got no idea because you don't want to share your tactics and strategy?
No, I genuinely have no idea. I sit down with my cards and I go, right, I've got to get all these people with more cards in their hands, but I also need to get rid of my own cards, so how do I manipulate them for my own benefit?
Psychological manipulation? That's your secret, is it?
Look, when you're playing
games.
When you're playing with a table and 6 people and you have no idea what card they're going to put next, you have to kind of twist things a little bit. And then we always played with adapted rules, so if you wanted to layer, you could layer on top and Are
you allowed to just throw your cards in the face of somebody else and storm off?
No. Okay, that's why I like Game of Life, because it's one of those games where you're not really being that competitive. It's just you're going to go and live a happy life at the end anyway, so what's the point of throwing a straw?
Yeah, maybe. But that Game of Life is a little bit competitive, isn't it?
Yeah, but you get to fly around the world with your family and have a good time.
It's quite nice, but I agree with you. Maybe the Game of Life needs a bit of an update. So, if people would like to let us know what their favourite board or card game is, where can they get in touch?
We have a Twitter, at All Kindness, and then we have a Facebook. I was going to say the email when I said Facebook, and then my brain kind of went, no, that's not right. So the Facebook is The Kindness Project, and the email is honor@thekindnessproject.co.uk. We have a website. I mean, I know it's very modern technology, but we have a website.
Well, it's more modern than the Game of Life iPad version, because clearly we accept anybody listening to the podcast, don't we?
Exactly.
You know, wherever you are and whatever you want to do, you can listen to the podcast. As long as you're kind. That's the thing. Can I just talk about one thing before we go? Have you seen the Mr. Rogers documentary on Netflix?
Oh, I saw the tail end of it with you.
I'd go back and rewatch it because it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Now I'll try to persuade you because there's a Mr. Rogers film out at the minute with Tom Hanks in, and you're not too keen. You wanted to go and see Sonic the Hedgehog.
I wanted to go and see Dolittle, but you don't want to go and watch it.
Dolittle, I'm not loving Dolittle. You've seen the reviews for Dolittle?
No.
It's doing very little for me. I can tell you that.
Don't screw reviews. They're film critics. They're supposed to be critical.
Well, they've not been critical to the Tom Hanks film. They've been actually quite generous to it.
Because it's Rogers.
Why are you saying Rogers with such disdain? He was like one of the kindest people on telly. Because it's Rogers.
Everyone loves him. Doolittle wasn't.
Yeah.
No one wants a remake of Doolittle with a white man when it was originally a black man in the first film.
No. Right, hold on. Eddie Murphy played Doolittle, but before that, years ago, there was a character called Rex Harrison who played Dr. Doolittle. So he was originally a white actor and then moved on to a black actor and then went back to a white actor.
Is it because it has low cultural diversity? Does it have cultural diversity? Please tell me it has cultural diversity.
What do you mean by that?
A range of ethnicities and a range of actors, you know?
Well, again, like I'm quite relaxed about the Game of Life having same-sex couples, I'm quite relaxed about Dr. Dolittle being whatever Dr. Dolittle wants to be. If he wants to be an Indian man an Indian woman, I'm happy.
Thing is, with the modern age, it's going to get bad reviews if it's not inclusive, which is...
What do you mean?
Well, because films that aren't inclusive now, so like a lot of films that have all white casts aren't.
Oh, no. Right. So we're comparing Dr. Dolittle, that's about a white man, with A Beautiful Day in the Neighbourhood, which is about a white man. One's got good reviews and one's got bad reviews. So how
Which
are
one's
you...
which? I haven't seen either film.
Right, Dr. Dolittle's about a white man. He's a doctor who speaks to the animals. Fred Rogers, A Beautiful Day in the Neighbourhood, is about a white man.
Beloved man, fictional character.
Yeah, so what's your point?
This doesn't have to... the one about Mr. Rogers doesn't have to have representation because it's a telling of a true story.
Right.
Whereas the Dolittle is not so much a telling of a true story, so it would be more appropriate for it. It doesn't have to be completely accurate, so it can have more ethnic, and not including them in it would be seen as a poor reputation on the production company because...
I completely disagree.
Okay.
I completely disagree. I think you should have films that have the best person for the job in.
Yeah, obviously. Obviously. You don't want some terrible actor, but just because they're like, we want a range of ethnicities. As long as the actors are good, but like you can't kind of go, okay, this is a film of pure white people and think society as a whole is going to accept that. Unless it's a film that's historically accurate or set in a place and time where there wasn't that many.
I think there's space for all sorts of movies with all sorts of casts. Be it all white, all black, mixed, anything.
I just like mixed movies.
Yeah, there's that new David Copperfield one looks good.
It's got Hugh Laurie, Peter Capaldi. I can't remember.
Two white men out there,
Hey, whoa! I can't remember the guy's name from
Dev Patel.
He was in Slumdog Millionaire, and I loved that
you remember
movie.
the white bloke's name, but when the Asian bloke comes up, you don't know it. Oh, this
Hugh
is
Laurie's
awful.
face and name is on the wall in my science classroom, and Peter Capaldi was the doctor, and I have an obsession with Doctor Who.
Why is Hugh Laurie on the wall in your science room?
He has a science degree in something about rocks and fossils.
He has a science degree in something sciencey. and on that note, and after that complete rant about... this is the thing, right? I am still trying to get my head around a culture. Like I'm 100% like cool with the inclusive bit, but I just don't think positive discrimination is a particularly good thing.
Yeah, me either.
You've just spent 10 minutes arguing for it.
That's not positive discrimination. I'm not saying we should be inclusive in our films.
I agree. Mm-hmm. And on that note, should we get on with the show?
Mm-hmm.
So, in this segment, which we still haven't got a trailer for, did you want to do a little jingle?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. It is the section where we just talk about a little bit about good news. And in this particular week's story, I've got teen praised for his honesty after heartfelt apology and cookies. And cookies. The stranger following icy road accident. Not many people would celebrate their mailbox getting taken out by a car, but when Crystal Collins experienced the valour and kindness of the particular youth who hit it, she knew she wanted to shout his praises in public. The teenager rang her doorbell when she was at home in Lincoln, Nebraska, and told her that due to icy conditions, he'd accidentally hit her mailbox. Not only did the youngster offer his most heartfelt apologies for the incident, he also offered her every dollar in his wallet. Collins told him to keep his money, but he returned to her house 2 days later with a plate of homemade cookies.
Aww.
If anyone wants to come round, don't knock down my letterbox, because my letterbox is attached to the door, and that might be a bit awkward. But if you wanna,
especially with the storm we got going on right now.
Exactly, yeah, it's a bit stormy. If you want to come round and, I don't know, no, actually don't. Don't do anything. Just bring cookies. That's what I'm saying.
Cookies.
Just bring cookies.
Cookies.
Collins was so touched, she published a Facebook photo of the young man from a security camera last week in hopes of identifying him and his family. I am looking for his parents, she wrote. They should know what an outstanding young man they have raised. After the post was shared several thousand times, the young man was identified as Owen Sullivan. It also reached a social media of his mother, Jamie, and she was extremely touched by her son's honesty. I honestly got teary-eyed because it was so just nice to know your kids do good things when you're not around. I love that story. How do you behave when nobody's looking and nobody you know is looking? That's the true test of an individual. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
What do I think? I think they're right. I think that is the true test of an individual. But exactly what they do when no one they know, because like people often act differently to try and impress others. So if there's no one you know present,
what would you do? Yeah.
Who are you trying to impress? And the answer is absolutely no one.
Yeah. So, but an amazing thing to do. Well done, that young man. Well done, Owen. And keep up the good work. So now we've got the last part of Ruth's interview. We've had Ruth on for the last couple of weeks. She's shared some amazing insights, Ruth Hughes, about being kinder to herself. And what we want to do now is conclude the interview with some more insights, but also
questions of the podcast.
Absolutely. And I intend to continue.
So the theory with positive emotions, and you were creating those emotions with Charlotte, is that it works in the moment when you do it. It also works when you recollect the parts.
Yeah, great.
We've just done that little exercise there. Both of us. I hadn't had that memory for a while. And then also when we're looking forward to it. So I don't know where your next travel experience with Charlotte is, but you can get those feelings of happiness and anticipation in advance.
Well, that's really interesting because in my work with clients, we talk about the fact that you should definitely prioritise experiences over stuff,
right?
Because the sort of three elements of happiness come from the memories, the anticipation, and the actual experience, as opposed to the stuff.
Right.
Where you that hedonic happiness
as opposed to
goes back to the mean. So it's interesting. But I think part of my job is to create memories for me and the people I love. It's really important to me. Yeah.
So that's just an example of one, and then engagement is the second one, which is it can be really associated with positive emotions, but it also has an element of challenge in it, where you're slightly out of your comfort zone, and maybe that sense of flow where you forget about time. So typically it would be sport.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned exercise, and I know that you're a runner. You're going to do a marathon.
Yeah.
But when you're in the zone and you're running, you're just there. Time passes differently, doesn't it, in those moments?
Yeah.
And it's also stretching you physically.
Yeah.
So engagement is another component of well-being.
It's that right balance between challenge and is it I can never
Pleasure and
pronounce his name. Mikhail.
Sits Mahalyi. Oh,
yeah. So I feel challenged right now trying to pronounce
me
his
too,
name.
but yes, that's exactly who it is. And Mahai sits. Yeah, it's a really difficult name to pronounce. I can see it, but I can't pronounce it very well. So that's engagement. So PE are relatedness, and we've talked about, and that's different for everybody. Some people, their dose of relatedness would be sitting one-to-one and having a coffee with somebody that they like and trust, and with other people it might be having a big party and having lots of people to socially interact with. But all of us need to relate as human beings at some level. And then meaning's the one that was the biggest surprise for me when I did the masters, in that I think I'd thought meaning was something that you had to find. And I think a bit like love, people think love happens to them, you fall into it, but love is something that you do, and it grows through doing it. Meaning is the same. So for me, activating my strengths provides meaning, but doing things for other people is very meaningful for a lot of people, and again, there's a lot of scientific basis behind that, but also not necessarily just for other people. If you feel that you're part of something bigger than yourself, for some people it's religion, for some people it might be the NHS or politics or whatever the thing that you contribute to that's more than you, and that you're a part of, that creates meaning, improves your well-being. PERMA, achievement. So measuring achievement and goals. So I'm a coach, and I work on helping people to achieve their goals, and a lot of unhappiness could be caused if your goal is too tenuous or too difficult to pin down. Making your goal smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed, so you know when you're going to do it. That can really help. It can also provoke anxiety. You've got to work with people, but being able to measure your progress against some kind of marker is demonstrably improving of your well-being. PERMA, and then H, which is health and exercise. So again, it can be connected. It was the missing one. That they felt wasn't included in the original 5. If you do a little bit in all of those, if you build those rocks into your week before you start, the chances are that your well-being will stay good and your mental health will stay protected.
And part of that's about time management, right? And being intentional about including these things in your life. So I'm just curious, because so in terms of engagement, where do you get that from? Well, where do you
talking? You said it was the first two questions, but I get my engagement. I lose a sense of if I'm speaking at a conference, if I don't lose all sense of time because I've got to keep to time, but sharing this kind of knowledge is what I love to do, and I don't feel like it's work. If I've got a whole day where I'm working with different groups, I don't realise I'm tired until I stop.
Gotcha.
Because the energy that
it's energising, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I'm a very sociable person as well, and I like connecting with people, but I also love of learning. So that's, if I can share that love of learning, if I can see people responding, if they're asking questions, if looking at how to apply. So if I'm working with a group of teachers, looking at how they can apply PERMA in their environments, and they're going, oh, we could do this. Oh, and we're already doing that, and that's brilliant. And why do that? I love that. I find energizing.
So. How about this then? And let me, if this is too contentious, tell me. But
okay, go on then.
I like to throw in a couple of at least marginally challenging questions.
Right.
What happens when you haven't got that environment and you've got a room of... That was a very deep intake of breath there. Yeah. I don't know whether that was from a memory you've just thought about.
Okay.
What happens when you struggle with that environment and you're in an environment where potentially, and I'd imagine this happens rarely, but potentially you need to work really hard to get people on board?
So if I'm at a conference, it really doesn't happen because
they're there.
They've chosen it. But I still do work in schools, and sometimes I do some outreach work and on something specific like helping manage change. I did a workshop not that long ago with a group of sixth formers who were part of a day programme, and they didn't really want to be at the programme, I think. So I have got teaching skills in the sense that I was a teacher for 30 years. And I've dealt with classes on a Friday afternoon that don't want to be there and are pushing all sorts of boundaries. So I will kick into using those tools and strategies whilst always seeking to make connections. Because if you've got a group like that, but not everybody in the group is like that. And so you
handling the group dynamic.
You handle the group dynamic and you reward the people who are engaging and you make it interesting and fun for them. And then the other stuff.
People going, well, we want to be involved in that environment.
Right. So that's what I would do in that circumstances, and I do feel very much more drained. If you've got a day like that where you're really working to get people engaged and to get, I would say I haven't had any experience where I would say it hasn't been successful.
Okay.
But I certainly have had the experience where it hasn't felt that engagement flow because I've had to work really, then it's work rather than fun. Most of the time it's fun.
Fair enough. And talk to me about the tips that you'd give somebody to protect their own mental health.
I would say...
particularly if they're going through challenging times.
Okay. I would say, first of all, identify your strengths. So I talked about virtues in action, character strengths.
That's available online?
It's available online. It's free. I would do... One thing I would say about that is some people, they do the survey and they go straight for the weaknesses at the bottom. They say, I must be weak at that. They are all strengths. Some of them are more active in us than others. So it isn't a case of those are my strengths, those are my weaknesses. They're all my strengths. I just have some that are active strengths.
Okay, well, I'm doing that when I get home, number one, because I'm really interested in that. But number two, you've got a list of strengths. The questionnaire tells you that these are your 5 most powerful or pertinent or whatever. Okay. And again, I might be wrong on this, but my natural reaction to this would be to focus on doing more of the top 5. And sort of ignoring the remainder.
That's exactly right.
Okay, why? Why is that right?
Because, as human beings, we are so used to focusing on what we haven't got and working on that. And actually I blame schools, speaking as a former teacher, because if you're saying, how's little Sam doing in maths? Fractions is a problem. He needs to work on fractions. And you kind of think, well, if Sam's brilliant at addition and is being given the things they love, that might develop a love of maths. That might develop whereas if you spend all your time working on the stuff you're not naturally very attuned to, not very good at, you feel you're not very good at, and that you don't like, is it going to make you like that subject? Is it going to make you feel good about yourself? So your response, I think, is absolutely psychologically the healthiest one. And when we look at what people do in their jobs, we tend to, like now I'm doing the thing that I really, really love, but we tend to do the things that we have an affinity for. We don't end up doing the subject that we couldn't wait to drop at school, just because it's good for us to, we don't continue that. So I think you need to spend a really there are, of course, I have to do tax returns, I have to do, all the stuff that we have to do that we might not particularly have fun doing, and obviously those need scheduling in, but to schedule in the things that give you the energy and that give you the joy,
great. Yeah.
That's what's good for your mental health.
You could potentially delegate those jobs to somebody else, couldn't you? I mean, that's
absolutely.
My response to it. What can I get rid of?
Can you get rid of? That somebody else can do
more efficiently because it's their bag.
And it would be their thing, that people who are really, really and enjoy that stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know who enjoys doing tax returns. My accountant,
some people
clearly.
do. I've got a brilliant accountant as well.
Yeah, it's good. So that's good to know. And one of the final questions that I want to ask you is about growth mindset. Yeah. Okay, because I know that you and I have both read Carol Dweck's book. Yeah. It's one of my favourite books of all time. Can you explain but I'm not an academic, I'm just a bloke with a podcast who reads a little bit. So from an academic perspective, speaking to the everyman, right? I'm sitting here. How would you explain growth mindset and why is it so important in our lives?
Okay, so growth mindset is about, it's based actually on the neuroscience that we used to think that people had fixed abilities, fixed IQ, fixed capabilities in different areas. There's been quite a lot of research. In fact, the first piece was on taxi drivers who had to learn the map of London. Yeah. And they found that their brains actually grew.
Changed,
actually physically changed. And so we always used to think that you could only learn up to a certain point, and after that your brain cells died off and you gradually lost your mental capabilities. We now know that physically your brains can learn, develop new neural connections and grow throughout your life. But we don't tend to operate, so we've talked a lot about mental maps. Our mental maps seem to operate in a way where we think that we have fixed abilities. So fixed mindset would be a number of concepts. Abilities are fixed. You either can or you can't do something. You would avoid challenges, because if you can't do it, what's the point in trying? And also that knocks your status, your sense of self. You have an argument or engagement in order to prove that what you know is right. And you would hide your mistakes and be shamed by them. You would make excuses, both for things you don't want to do and for any mistakes you did make and things that you had done. And you would take feedback as criticism. Whereas with a growth mindset, you understand that abilities are growing.
Yep.
If you can't do something, it's because you haven't yet got the skills or strategies, but you may well be able to grow and develop them through practice. You would seek challenges, so you would engage with the actual learning. You'd seek always to improve. If you make a mistake, you'd examine them. You'd look at what went wrong and what you could learn from it, and you'd see those mistakes as opportunities to improve, and you take feedback as advice.
Yes, sure.
So you'd see it as being something helpful. And I went to I heard Carol Dweck speak.
Amazing.
She was totally amazing, and also Jonathan Needlands.
Where was that?
I can't remember. It was in an old church.
Okay.
It was a beautiful building. I wish I could remember where it was. Anyway, it was a great day, and he came up with a grid of achievement with fixed mindset, and that I found, even though I'd read the book, I think I hadn't really got that bit, because when we think of growth mindset, we tend to think about it in terms of things you can't yet do and having an attitude to that. But I hadn't seen growth mindset in terms of the things that I thought I was already good at.
Sure.
And then I thought, well, I mean, and all of us have growth mindset in some
But in
areas.
terms of improving the skills that you think you're naturally good at.
Exactly, exactly. So if you're successful and you think, oh, I'm naturally good at that, that is a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like, whoa, because actually what you should be thinking is, I've developed an ability to be good at that.
Sure.
You might have some natural propensity, but you know, when you were
continue
two,
to improve
when
that?
you were two, you certainly weren't good at it, and probably 5 years ago, you weren't as good at it as you are now. So it's a learnt behaviour.
Yeah, sure, sure.
And the implication of that is you can get even better.
Yeah.
You know, and then loving being successful. Oh, I love being successful because I'm good at that. Rather than loving the success, the outcome, it's the continuation of being able to improve that you love. So instead of measuring your success, you're measuring that development.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because like you like, a couple of things spring to mind. I was thinking about some of the language we still use, and one word that sprang to mind was mastery, because you never really master anything, do you? And then as you're speaking, and because I'm such a fan of growth mindset, it just brought back a memory of Charlotte's in her last year of GCSEs this year. And Cassie and I normally go to the open evening together. My youngest daughter Sophie had her tonsils out last week, so she's feeling the pain, bless her, a bit. We're going through that. So I went with Charlotte to her open day, and it frustrated me a bit sitting in front of some of the teachers because they described her as clever, and I'm not overly enamoured with that word, because I try to persuade Charlotte that she needs to continue to develop and work hard to. And it's interesting how you assume that this sort of research would have permeated into the academic community, but
it's starting to. But I mean, what I said to you at the beginning about teachers being very much, you know, we are trained to help people with the areas they're not so good at. And that's very, you know, oh, that person's good at that person. There's been some fascinating research on teachers being randomly allocated. So they've been given a class, and all the scores for how the pupils are true, but they've been given information which is false about the class as well, that some of them are late bloomers and that have that potential, and others are not. And all of the ones who would, you know, they have potential but they're not fulfilling it, suddenly did much better than the others, because of the teacher's expectation of them having changed. You know, so I think that you're absolutely right. If you think of yourself as clever, and the other thing about being told that you're clever and having a very outcome-driven world is that clever children might not work. And you might think, well, why not? Why would that happen? But it's because if you try and you don't do that well,
the perception
you're
changes.
not clever anymore. Whereas if you don't try and you don't do that well, you are already labelled as clever, and the reason you didn't do well is because you didn't work hard. Exactly.
It's
so too little, too late. It's a real symptom of growth mindset to do with an outcome orientated culture. And then, you know, it also has, I don't know what I'd do if things went wrong. Whereas if you have, and you're successful, you worry what happens when I'm, you know, if something goes wrong. Whereas if you have a growth mindset and you learn to look at problems as opportunities, you think, all right, I would have a strategy to deal with it. And that's been the biggest change with me. I still do worry about things, you know, I try to preempt, but I think, okay, if that happened, I've got a number of strategies that I can use, and I will survive it. So I've got generally much more optimistic outlook in life.
And resilient.
Right? And resilient, absolutely.
Okay, so let me ask you one more. that was amazing. Thank you for that. One more challenging question to finish off. Okay, it's not too challenging, so it's fine. I find education, I've never been a teacher, I haven't got any professional experience in this field, but I find educating in 2019 quite an interesting prospect, because and let me just tell you a story to frame this a bit. Okay. So I my business and I go in and try and deliver financial education. I say try deliver financial education to kids on an annual basis. So we sponsor 30 kids through a class. We've been doing it for 5 or 6 years, and we get massive amounts of satisfaction from trying to help kids understand more about money on a rudimentary level. And I in my own head, currently I'm trying to work through this. This year we went back to the school that we did it before, and they haven't got the capacity in the time in the syllabus to do it. And that's my phone going. That's really unprofessional podcasting, by the way. You should never do that. So we were in a position where actually this year we're not doing it. But it made me think about how in 2019, if I can get access to all the knowledge in the world through my phone, should we have more focus in schools on teaching techniques, skills, resilience, things that aren't immediately accessible? So should there be more skills focused as opposed to knowledge?
100%.
Okay, cool. So there wasn't particularly challenging that question.
No, it wasn't. I mean, the model that we have within schools is a pretty old-fashioned.
Broken. Yeah.
I wouldn't say broken.
Okay.
But I would say it's an old map.
Yes.
And it needs updating. And the world, we're training young people for jobs that haven't been invented yet.
Yeah.
And so what we need to be training them in is the ability to deal with situations that they haven't dealt with yet, and the ability to have strategies to cope with what life throws at them, rather than to be measured on being able to regurgitate different bits of information. And actually, to be fair, there is a lot of very good work being done in that area, but it isn't enough. And the thinking isn't radical enough.
It's a Titanic, isn't it? Trying to shift the boat. Okay, so let me ask you this then: what change do we need to make sure that boat's moving more quickly? Because, and again, let me give you another perspective on this, because I'm curious about this. I spoke to a ex-head teacher who I know really well, who said part of the challenge is teachers typically become teachers from university. So they go through college, university, and then straight back into education. And his perspective on it, and again, I don't know whether this is entirely accurate or not, but his perspective on it is having teachers with a bit more outside experience might be beneficial for children, but I don't know how you govern that.
Yeah, I mean, I think having a strategic way of doing that isn't necessarily clear.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a teacher who'd worked in a number of other professions before I went into teaching, and I felt that really helped me and helped me to connect with the young people that I was working with.
Okay.
But likewise, I'm now a professional consultant, and I think that the work that I did as a teacher is infinitely valuable in what I do now.
Sure.
I mean, getting just more experience, more flexibility, coming back to expertise in cultural transition, helping people understand what it's like to be in different situations, empathise with people who see things very differently, building that shared experience in as many different ways as we can is the way forward, so far as I see it.
Amazing. That's brilliant. So that's all of our questions answered. However, we always try and you've listened to a couple of the episodes of the podcast, so you probably know about this, but I don't know if you were ready for it. What we always do is ask a couple of questions that we ask our listeners every week that's non-related to kindness, but we just, because we're quite curious, we like to ask them. So just a couple of questions we've asked, and we've got 100 of these questions now, because we ask them on every interview, and we get some really amazing answers, so it'd be interesting to get your...
No pressure.
No pressure. If you could model yourself on your favourite book character, who would it be?
Favourite book character? Just trying to think if I've got one.
Okay.
I did English Lit for my first degree.
Okay, what's your favourite book? Depends on what genre.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I have a favourite book. I have many favourite books. I think 30 years ago I'd have said Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment because it was so interesting, but it seems really dark and depressing now.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine. Let me give you another one. What's your favourite piece of trivia ever?
Okay, the thing that's immediately sprung to my mind was a little. I don't even know if this counts as trivia, but it was a Facebook meme on acceptance.
Okay.
Which has a little picture of two clouds, and on the left hand side, and they're both raining.
Yeah.
And on the left hand side, underneath the cloud, it says it's raining. I wish it wasn't raining. Why does it always rain? I only like it when it's sunny. It's probably going to rain all day. It makes me miserable when it's raining. When is it going to stop raining? So, and so forth. And on the right, it says it's raining. Yup.
Okay. Yeah.
As an example of just how we do that thing to ourselves, where what's happening, we can just either tell the story or we can just go, okay. That's happening.
Yeah,
that's
gotcha.
Happening.
Yeah, I like that. What if you could visit one ancient civilization? What one would you go back in time and visit?
I'm really tempted just for the look of it. I'm very curious about ancient Egyptian culture. I don't think it would be a very pleasant experience, but just the awe and the majesty and the amount of team effort that was used to and the vision.
Yeah.
The vision of something, we talked about contributing to something greater than you are, something that will last 1,000 years in the future, and just seeing that kind of
in
concept
development.
of eternity. Yeah, I'd be really interested in that.
That's interesting. Let me think about it. There's the one of our. I'll share one of our most contentious questions ever, and I didn't think it was going to be when I asked it. But what's the best Muppet?
That is a really hard.
It is, isn't it?
I mean, I'm kind of tempted to say Gonzo, but I don't know why.
Okay, Gonzo's good. Gonzo's good. What's your biggest claim to fame?
My biggest claim to fame is a really odd one. I supported Eddie Izzard.
Oh, did you? Right, amazing.
And in the Exeter and Devon Arts Centre, again about 30 years ago.
Doing stand-up?
It was a version of it was fairly poor political poetry.
Okay, interesting.
With humorous political poetry, and it was the most frightening thing I've ever done in my life. And I'd never done proper stand-up. I'd done a few sort of student gigs, but this was it was still largely a student audience, but it was a proper audience. And I shook so much before I went out, and it went down well. And I came off the stage and I was still shaking. And I just thought, I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to do that again. Because
would you ever do it again? Now you know.
Never. No, I love speaking in public. I love to know what I'm speaking about. Stand up, I wouldn't.
Okay, so interestingly, would you ever do a open mic poetry night, knowing that you had your?
Yeah, I would do that.
Okay, interesting.
I would do that. It's the being funny, and I don't know the whole dynamic. And also, he was so amazing, and so maybe it was that comparison thing as well.
Maybe. What's your Let me think. What's the world's greatest fruit?
It's probably got to be the apple.
Apple. Okay, interesting. I think there's only one answer. The banana's clearly the
I like bananas.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's got to be the apple. It's more versatile.
Okay, fair enough. And what's the best Christmas present you've ever had?
Oh. In light of experiences over, I think a Christmas holiday that I had in Africa, going down again to Kariba, this a number of years after that trip was pretty special.
Okay, amazing. You know what Cassie and I have done this year? We've said we're not going to buy each other presents, but we're going to buy experiences instead. So we're off to Dublin for Valentine's Day, so we're doing that. That'd be good. And so Cassie, no, I like jazz. So Cassie bought Gregory Ball's tickets for May, and then I started talking over the weekend about buying Gregory Ball tickets and completely spoiled the surprise because she had to tell me then don't book them because I've got them already. But I'm a big advocate of that.
The best birthday present I ever had for my 40th. Mark and I, when we first met, we wrote bucket lists.
Yeah.
And he'd achieved pretty much everything on his. I had swimming with dolphins on mine.
Right, okay.
And for my 40th, he took me to Egypt.
Amazing.
And we swam with wild dolphins, which was...
Okay, so that leads on perfectly to the next question we've asked.
Yeah.
What's next on your bucket list that you're going to tick off? Personally or professionally?
Well, it is professionally. So okay. I've got a real passion about what I'm talking about today. And I think that culture shock really isn't well enough understood. And I think there's an awful... Partly we're in a much more global world than we were before. People move across continents. Yeah. And I think there's also, an increase in intolerance, but it comes from lack of understanding often and from fear. I think it was Gandhi, wasn't he? He said, we think that the problem is hate, but the problem is never hate, it's fear. Because hate is born from fear. So I think in terms of what the message that I want to spread, I'm working on some online courses at the moment to help people better understand culture shock and to help support people undergoing cultural transition. And I'm really excited about that. And that's next on my bucket list, is to try to get that message out there.
Amazing, I love it. And what are you most nostalgic about?
I think maybe my children being little.
Okay.
My children are wonderful adults.
How old are you?
20
kids?
and 23.
Okay.
But they were so, just that thing where you come home from work and your kids run up and they just...
Yeah.
Those kind of absolute unself-conscious hugs. I'm nostalgic about that.
Do they hug you still?
Oh, yeah.
They love a hug?
They do. My daughter, no, not as much as I do. They do like a hug, but, it was that thing where... That was the most important thing, and they'd kind of be racing to get to you first. I am nostalgic about that.
So my two girls are a little bit younger. So Charlotte's 15, nearly 16, and then Sophie's 7, nearly 8. And I realised the other day that there won't be any more of the thirsts that define that part of my life. So they both can ride a bike, they both can swim, they both can read and write really well. And even though there'll be loads more firsts, you sort of think, I'm never going to experience that again unless it's with grandchildren or whatever it may be.
And those moments when they go, when they're really little, they come into bed for a cuddle, and then one day they don't anymore, and you never know that was the very last time.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And last question, where can... here's one more, which is quite fun. If you were to open a shop with a pun-based name...
Oh, Lord.
What would you call it and what would it sell? So let me give you a few examples of what we had. Hairdressers top crop we had from one of our listeners. Liceland anti-knit shampoo store. Apparently there's chip shops are really good for puns, so we had the frying place, the Codfather, and Oh My Cod. There was what else did we have? We had a pub called Pickled, apparently. So what would you...
Okay. Well, let's make it coaching based. So if I call it the coaching rooms and I put talk till you're hoarse.
I really like that, yeah, because it's coach and coach. It's the good derivative. And where can people find out a little bit more about you?
Okay, so my website is www.curious-human.co.uk.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, so I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much, Chris.
So that was the last part of Ruth's interview. What did you think?
It was good.
It was good, wasn't it? Let's move on with the show.
'Tis the end of another podcast.
And it is actually the end this week. And guess what? I didn't make the mistake I made last week. I actually asked the question on social media.
Did you want me to fill it in? I thought you were just taking a dramatic pause.
I was. It was it dramatic enough?
No.
Okay, so this week, last week, I asked a particular question, which was, if you had a pirate name, what would it be? And we had a number of questions and a number of really bad pirate jokes. So Russell Dames was the first to chip in, and he'd call himself Long John No Teeth. Long John No Teeth. Andrew Berwick said Captain Sparrow under the moonless sky, but also emailed us a pirate name generator. So we couldn't think about pirate names last week, apart from Cotton Eye Joe. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the pirate name generator and see what your pirate name comes out with. So you are a millennial. Oh no, actually. Yeah, 2003. So you're a millennial. What do you currently do in life? Still trying to figure it out. Full-time student and rocking it is the answer. Okay, cool. Next. And what's your deepest desire? Inner and outer peace, a compassionate world, personal growth, finding true love, or understanding other people.
Understanding other people.
This is a bit deep for being a pirate name generator. I thought we were just going to press a button and get an answer. There's more questions. Just bring one quick.
My life is a crazy explosion of shapes and colours and ideas.
Okay, that's fine.
What it says.
Please, no more questions. No more. What role do you play in your friendships?
Is there a button for mum friends?
I'll be the peacemaker. Right, come on, please. No, we've got more questions. All I want is Charlotte's pirate
Work out,
name.
are you serious?
Right, all I want is a pirate name. That is all I want. Right, if you don't give me more questions, it'll look like fun. I just want a pirate name. That's all I want. Next.
I often. What do you dream of? Yeah, that one.
All right. Please give me a name. Please give me a name. If you were an animal, what would you be?
An owl, falcon, or an eagle.
Can I just be a pirate that has a name that you're actually going to give me?
Maybe I'm just a.
And then the button's not working. Oh, do you have a bucket list?
No, but I do know what I want in life.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, I want a pirate name. Sorry, pick one below. You are.
I am obviously not a captain. No, maybe I am.
First mate, and then we'll put Charlotte in. We will actually get to your pirate name in a minute.
Fun fact while you're doing that. Did you know that a captain can officiate a wedding, and if the captain is getting married, the first mate can officiate the wedding, but if the captain and the first mate are marrying each other, the second mate can officiate the wedding.
That is an amazing trait. Captain Little the Funk Master.
Hey!
Now, I've got to be honest, I don't know whether that questionnaire was worth all that effort. That could have been like completely random, and I've just answered all these binking questions to get the...
But you got my fun little pirate fact.
Yeah, I did. That was good. Roberta White's pirate name would be Blind Roo. Nick Matthews just shared a joke. How much do pirates pay to get their ears pierced?
A buccaneer.
A buck an ear.
That reminds me of my joke.
And then John Sharman chipped in with, why can't pirates learn the alphabet? Because they spend their years at sea. Why are pirates called pirates? Because they are.
You put one on.
How much did the pirate pay for his peg and a hook? An arm and a leg. Why can't pirates play cards? Because the captain is always standing on the deck. And yeah, loads and loads of bad jokes. John Cook, friend of the show, just one-eyed John. And Alan Cass said, when I lost my eye to cancer in 2014, I was named Captain Cass, and a few of my friends still call me that. And Al McCann said, Blackjack McCann.
Great game.
Yeah. And on that note, and the longest series of questions I've ever had to answer to generate a random name ever.
You've never been on random name generator then, have you?
Clearly. That's the end of the show.
Bye.